Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Meg, and today I am giving these nightstands a new look, new makeover. They came with the last week's dresser that I did in my video on Sunday, and this was a whole set that came together. They have dovetail joint drawers, solid wood, they're beautiful. Now I know there's one handle missing there, but I did have it. I had already taken it off. So first off, I took off the hardware. Now I wasn't sure if I was keeping the original hardware or not, so I did keep them set aside. And these are quite unique because they have quite large, like wider holes, and there's not quite a lot of handles that are that wide. I also filled in a little piece at the back there that was chipped that needed some wood filler, and I scuff sanded the entire table, both tables on top and bottom and sides, and then I used some cleaner just to clean them up and remove all that extra dust. I had run out of my usual cleaner, which is the Cottage Paint Clean and Prep. And I had also run out of the other one as well. And so I used a Mr. Clean cleaner that I had in my kitchen. I took all the drawers and then placed green tape behind the holes so that if I was painting or spraying, I'm not going to get any primer or paint in the inside. I then used the green tape to cover up the wooden tracks, and I also put some green tape on the sides and along the bottom as well. That way it won't look messy if any paint or primer gets in that area. Even though when I did spray, I did get a little bit of paint in the inside, and that's okay. It's because these were quite a small area, but I didn't want paint or primer on the inside there along the edges, because when your drawers go in, you can see it. I usually pour the primer into the trays or into my sprayer in my where my wash sink is. But I'm actually going to try and roll the primer on for these tables. And so I poured it in my workshop. And because the primer was just sitting in the container, you can see there's some gray paint still needed to be mixed up. So I made sure that was all mixed really well. I got these little trays at the dollar store. I think they were $1 or $1.25. And this is gray primer, and I usually use Kiltz Restoration Primer, which I absolutely love, but I needed to use up this bin 123 in gray. And eventually I will get the Kiltz Restoration Primer and tint it gray. So once I had rolled onto the tops, I started to roll the edges, the trim, and the sides, and I realized I was not liking this at all. And I don't usually roll on primer, but I thought because they were small areas, I didn't have to get out my sprayer. And I was rolling the sides, and I realized that there is trim underneath, like a border sort of thing underneath each of the tops. And I also realized that this is going to be difficult to roll the legs because the legs were so detailed and so many like curves. And yeah, I got fed up. So I poured the primer into my sprayer and just sprayed away. And this was much easier. So I wish I had done this in the first place. There are some pieces like the antique dresser that I did a few weeks ago where I primed the whole piece with the roller and used the paint with the roller, and it worked out great. But these were a little bit more intricate that I didn't want to use the roller. I wanted a better finish. And I also didn't want to use a brush. So once I had done about 2 coats of the primer, I used some sanding paper. Now I have the 600 sanding paper and I usually use 220, but I didn't have any 220. I seem to be going through that paper quite a lot. So I used the 600 for now, just to sand in between each coat. Once that was all done, I then put the paint into my sprayer. Now this isn't my usual sprayer. I usually use the Wagner Flexio 5000, but because these were small tables, I'm really loving this sprayer. It's still a Wagner brand, but it's the Home Decor one, and it's for small projects, small pieces of furniture, and I just love the spray flow that it provides. So I did about 3 coats of the paint. This is called Dark Roast, and it's by Country Chic Paint, and it's one of my favorite colors. It reminds me of seaweed, like very dark green seaweed. It's a beautiful color, and I did 3 coats of this and on the drawers as well. I then used my 600 grit sanding paper again to sand the drawers lightly so that they were nice and smooth. And then I sprayed the paint over again. This was probably my 3rd coat, making sure that I got all of the edges and the sides. My plan for these tables were putting a 3D stencil look on all of the drawers. So I used this stencil. I thought it was really cool. It's called Something Geometric. And I mixed a bit of 3D paste with the paint that I was using. So it came out a little bit silver, which is fine. I just didn't want the white 3D paste coming through my paint if it ever got chipped or something or scratched a little bit. And so I always find it's best to mix the paint color with the 3D paste. Then I used my putty knife just to scrape it on, and then you pull off the stencil and it looks like this. So it's sort of a 3D look. I then sprayed over the top with the dark roast paint that I was using so that it blended in and it was the same color. I did that on all of the drawers, and then it was time to spray the top coat. I'm using a clear coat. I'll put it in my description. And I did 3 coats of the clear coat. I usually only do 2, but I did 3 this time, just because nightstands I know are well used. And I also sanded in between the coats with a 1000 grit sanding block. I also had a 2000 sanding block, and I think I used that one as well. But you just have to go over the top coat when it's dried very, very lightly. And this gives a really nice smooth finish with a bit of a sheen to it with the top coat. Otherwise it can turn out quite matte and hard to clean. I then sprayed the original hardware because I was looking for hardware that would match the tables and the look of the tables, but I couldn't find anything, and just thought that the original hardware would look amazing on them. So I sprayed with the Rust-Oleum spray and then added the hardware to the tables. Make sure that when you are spraying hardware that you do leave it for about a day. That way that the hardware isn't very sticky and that it's completely settled. As I was putting the hardware on, I noticed there was a little spot there. It was just from the paste, and it was the color that I had mixed with. So I just took some paint from the lid on my finger and just dabbed it on that area and then wiped it so that it blends in. I also noticed that there was a little bit of paint missing on one of the corners of the drawer and right there, and so I just went over it with the paint with my finger and it's gone. So here's what they look like before. Beautiful solid wood tables. They just needed a new look, makeover. Original hardware, dovetail joints on the drawers. I loved them. And here is what they look like now. I think they turned out so beautiful. I love the 3D stencil on the drawers. Beautiful original hardware. I think they look amazing, and they were so much fun to create this new look on them. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video, and let me know what you think of them. And I will see you next week, Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching.